had never been more aware of how much she weighed. The elevator descended through the massive space station, and every alien around her shifted uncomfortably. Their fragile bodies swayed with each minor movement. She stood perfectly still, her military training keeping her centered, but even breathing seemed to disturb the delicate creatures surrounding her. "First time on hub station?" a voice asked. Looked down at a moth-like being covered in soft purple fur. Its 4 eyes blinked in sequence, a gesture she'd learned meant curiosity among the Ali species. "Is it that obvious?" replied, keeping her voice low. The creature flinched anyway. "You're human," it said simply. "Everyone knows the human ambassador arrived today. I study biology." The elevator doors opened onto a vast circular hall. Thousands of beings from hundreds of species moved through the space in a slow, careful dance. Had studied the files during her 6-month journey from Earth, but seeing them in person was different. They were so small, so delicate, most barely reached her chest. Their movements were cautious, calculated. No one ran, no one pushed. Everything was orderly and gentle. "This way to the council chamber," said, floating more than walking with her 4 wings beating softly. "Try to move slowly. Your footsteps are quite alarming." Had practiced. She'd watched videos. She'd trained with the xenobiology team. But actually walking among beings who flinched at her presence was harder than she'd imagined. Each step felt too heavy. Each movement too fast. She was a bull in a shop full of glass figurines, except the figurines were sentient and terrified. The council chamber was enormous, with seats arranged in concentric circles. Representatives from hundreds of worlds sat in climate-controlled bubbles, each environment carefully maintained. The human section was empty except for 1 seat. Took her place and immediately noticed the reinforced floor beneath her chair. They'd had to strengthen it just to hold her weight. Ambassador Ox spoke first. He was tall by galactic standards, perhaps reaching shoulder, with crystalline skin that reflected the chamber's lights. "We welcome humanity to the Galactic Concordat," he said, his voice smooth and formal. "Your application has been reviewed. Your world is classified as a Class XII. Such worlds typically do not produce spacefaring civilizations. You are an anomaly." Stood to respond, moving as slowly as she could manage. Even so, several nearby ambassadors leaned away. "Earth is our home," she said. "We're grateful for the opportunity to join the galactic community. We have much to learn from you and perhaps something to offer in return." "What could a species possibly offer us?" Ox asked. There was no malice in his voice, only genuine curiosity. "Your world has gravity 40% higher than standard. Your atmosphere contains poison that would kill most species here. Your sun emits radiation levels that we consider deadly. Even your plant life is toxic. How did you survive?" "We adapted," said simply. "We learned, we worked together." The session continued for hours. Answered questions about Earth, about human history, about their technology. She was patient, clear, and careful, but she could see it in their faces, in their body language. They were fascinated and frightened in equal measure. The reception afterward was worse. Stood in a corner trying to make herself small, while aliens kept their distance. They whispered and stared. A few brave souls approached to exchange formal greetings before hurrying away. She was about to leave when the station's emergency alarms blared. "Hull breach in Section 7, a calm voice announced. "All personnel evacuate immediately. Structural failure in progress." The orderly crowd became chaos. Aliens moved toward exits in a slow, organized manner that made one scream. Section 7 was the residential area. Thousands of beings lived there. She checked her and saw the breach was spreading. The station's automated systems were trying to seal it, but something was wrong. The emergency bulkheads weren't deploying. Ran, she didn't think about it. She just moved, her legs pumping, her heart racing. She covered the distance to Section 7 in minutes, leaving confused and startled aliens in her wake. The corridor was in chaos. Debris floated in the reduced gravity near the breach. She could see the black of space through a massive tear in the hull. 3 maintenance workers were trapped beneath a fallen support beam. They were screaming, their fragile bodies clearly injured. Assessed the situation in seconds. The beam was massive, easily several tons. The station's gravity was only 60% of Earth's, but it was still heavy, too heavy for any equipment nearby. She grabbed the beam and lifted. Her muscles strained. Her back protested, but the beam moved. She raised it high enough for the workers to scramble free, then carefully lowered it back down. Her hands were bleeding where the metal had cut through her gloves, but she barely noticed. "The bulkhead controls are damaged," one of the workers gasped, pointing at a control panel hanging from the wall. "We need to manually seal this section or the breach will spread." Looked at the panel. It was in a section of corridor exposed to vacuum. The atmosphere was venting fast. Emergency flickered weakly, trying to contain the breach. "I'll do it," she said. "You'll die," the worker said flatly. "That's hard vacuum. Even with an emergency suit, you'd have maybe 30 seconds before." Was already moving. She grabbed an emergency suit from the wall locker and pulled it on over her uniform. It was designed for small, delicate species. It barely fit, straining at the seams. She didn't care. She cycled through the emergency airlock and stepped into the damaged section. The cold hit her immediately. Her suit's heater struggled to keep up. The vacuum pulled at her, trying to drag her toward the breach. She grabbed handholds and pulled herself toward the control panel. 20 seconds. Her lungs burned. 15 seconds. Her fingers found the manual override. 10 seconds. She keyed in the emergency code. 5 seconds. The bulkhead slammed down, sealing the breach. The pressure stabilized. Collapsed against the wall, her vision swimming. Medical teams arrived seconds later, pulling her back through the airlock. They surrounded her, scanning her with instruments, speaking in rapid bursts she couldn't follow. "She was exposed to vacuum for 47 seconds, someone said. "How is she alive?" "Check her suit. It must have maintained pressure." The suit failed after 20 seconds. She survived 27 seconds of hard vacuum. Sat up slowly. Everything hurt, but she was alive. "The workers?" she asked. "Safe," said, pushing through the crowd. "You saved them. You saved this entire section of the station." What didn't know was that every moment had been recorded. The station's security feeds captured everything. Her run through the corridors, lifting the beam, walking into vacuum. Within hours, the footage was on every news network in the Concordat. Within a day, trillions of beings across hundreds of worlds had watched the human ambassador do the impossible. The council session the next day was different. The chamber was packed, every seat filled. Ox stood at the central podium, his crystalline face unreadable. "Ambassador," he said formally, "your actions yesterday have raised questions. Our medical experts cannot explain your survival. Our engineers calculate that you lifted weight beyond our strongest industrial equipment. You moved through our station at speeds we reserve for emergency vehicles. You survived conditions that would kill any known species." Stood slowly, the room was silent. "I did what anyone would do," she said. "No," Ox replied. "You did what only a human could do. That is precisely what concerns us." Before could respond, another alarm sounded. This one was different, more urgent. The chamber's displays lit up with incoming data. "Attack on mining colony Theta 7, the announcement said. "Collective forces have breached the perimeter. Colony defense forces overwhelmed, requesting immediate assistance." The council erupted in discussion. Mining colony Theta 7 housed over 50,000 beings. It was a critical resource point, and it was 3 days away at standard Concordat fleet speeds. "Our peacekeeping forces are 2 days from the colony," an admiral reported. "By the time we arrive, it will be too late. They will have killed or captured everyone." Accessed her. The Earth ship that had brought her was still docked at the station. It was a military vessel designed for speed and combat. It could reach the colony in 18 hours. I can take a team, she said. The council chamber went silent. Ox stared at her. You're proposing a rescue mission with one ship against an entire battle group. Yes, said simply. It's suicide. Maybe for you, replied, then caught herself. I apologize, that was disrespectful. What I mean is that humans train for combat. We've been fighting for survival since we evolved. We know how to do this. Your ship carries how many soldiers? Another council member asked. 30 Marines. 30 against thousands of warriors. The council member's voice was flat with disbelief. I understand your concern, said carefully, but those 30 Marines are human. Give me permission to try. If we fail, your fleet will still arrive to recover what they can. If we succeed, you'll save 50,000 lives. The vote was close, but they granted permission, returned to her ship and briefed her team. The Marines listened in silence, their faces hard and focused. They'd been in stasis for the journey, waiting for exactly this moment, waiting to show the galaxy what humans could do. This is going to be broadcast, told them. The Concordat wants documentation for their records. The whole galaxy will be watching, so let's give them something to see. Let's show them what Earth's children can do. The ship launched, its human-designed engines pushing it to speeds that made the dock controllers nervous. As they accelerated away from hub station, watched the stars stretch and blur. She thought about the delicate aliens she'd met, about their careful, orderly society, about their of peace. And she thought about the collective waiting at the mining colony, probably assuming the Concordat would respond with their usual careful, measured approach. They had no idea what was coming for them. No idea that for the first time in centuries, someone was bringing war to their doorstep. The galaxy was about to learn a hard lesson. Humanity hadn't reached the stars through luck or accident. They'd clawed their way up from a world that tried to kill them every single day. They'd survived ice ages and plagues, predators and disasters. They'd learned to fight, to adapt, to never give up. And now, that's children were coming to save the galaxy's innocent, smiled grimly as the ship jumped to faster-than-light speeds. The collective was about to meet Earth's finest. She almost felt sorry for them. Almost. The human ship dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Theta 7 system, stood on the bridge, studying the tactical display. The mining colony was a cluster of habitats built into a large asteroid. Ships surrounded it like predators circling wounded prey. Their fighters patrolled in standard formations, confident and unconcerned. They're not even trying to hide, her tactical officer said. They think the Concordat forces are days away. They're right, replied, about the Concordat forces, but we're not Concordat forces, we're something they've never seen before. They had been probing Concordat borders for years, testing defenses, hitting soft targets. They'd learned that Concordat species were peaceful, slow to respond, easily frightened. Their entire strategy was built on overwhelming force and quick strikes. They'd never faced resistance that fought back with equal violence. Opened a channel to her Marines. They were in the drop pods, sealed in armor, weapons ready. You know the mission, she said. Get into the colony, secure the civilians, eliminate any forces inside. We're not here to take prisoners. We're not here to negotiate. We're here to save lives and show the galaxy that attacking innocent people has consequences. Understood, Commander, the team leader replied. We're ready. The ship's pilot was Lieutenant, a veteran of Earth's orbital conflicts. She grinned as she pushed the throttles forward. Going to full combat speed. This is going to be fun. The human ship accelerated directly toward the formation. It didn't follow standard Concordat approach protocols. It didn't broadcast peaceful intentions or request permission to enter the combat zone. It simply attacked. They were confused at first. Their sensors showed a single ship approaching at speeds far beyond normal Concordat vessels. They sent warnings, then threats. Then they opened fire. Their weapons scored hits on the human ship's shields, but the ship didn't slow down. It didn't evade. It just kept coming. "Shields at 60%, reported calmly, returning fire. The human ship's weapons were different from Concordat designs. They'd been built for Earth's wars, designed to punch through heavy armor and overwhelm defenses. The first salvo tore through a cruiser's shields and ripped open its hull. The second salvo destroyed it completely. The formation scattered. They'd never seen anything like this. Concordat ships fought from distance, using careful tactics and measured responses. This human ship fought like a wild animal, aggressive and relentless. It dove into their formation, weapons blazing, shields absorbing damage that should have destroyed it. Watched the tactical display with satisfaction. The Marines were away, their drop pods screaming toward the colony's docking bay at speeds that would kill most species from the G-forces alone. The ships were trying to reorganize, trying to coordinate their response, but they were used to fighting timid opponents. They kept hesitating, uncertain how to handle an enemy that seemed to welcome the fight. "Pods are away," reported. "Want me to keep these ships busy?" "Negative," said. "Target their communication arrays. I want them blind and confused." Targeting was perfect. 3 quick strikes took out the flagship's main communications array and damaged 2 others. The fleet's coordination collapsed. Individual ships tried to press attacks, but without unified command, they were just targets. Inside the colony, the Marines hit the docking bay hard. The warriors stationed there barely had time to raise weapons before human rifles cut them down. Sergeant Martinez led the first team deeper into the colony, moving fast through corridors designed for smaller species. They had to duck through doorways and squeeze through tight spaces, but they didn't slow down. "Contact Junction 7, Martinez reported. His voice was calm despite the weapons fire in the background. Dozen warriors, engaging. The fight was short and brutal. Warriors were trained fighters, aggressive and skilled, but they'd never fought humans before. They'd never faced opponents who were faster, stronger, and just as willing to use violence. The humans moved through the colony like a storm, hitting hard, never stopping, always pushing forward. The colony's civilians were huddled in the main habitat, guarded by warriors who'd been using them as hostages. Martinez's team reached the habitat within 20 minutes of landing. "We've got maybe 200 hostages," he reported. 50 guards. They're threatening to start killing civilians if we don't back off." His voice came through clearly. "Can you take them?" Martinez studied the tactical map. The habitat was large with multiple levels. They were spread out, using civilians as shields. A frontal assault would result in civilian casualties. "Not without losses on their side," he admitted. "Stand by," said. She switched channels. "Lieutenant, I need a demonstration. Target one of the smaller ships. The one closest to the colony. I want it gone." "Understood," replied. Seconds later, a destroyer simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, the next it was an expanding cloud of debris. Opened a direct channel to the commander inside the colony. She spoke in, her pronunciation perfect despite the harsh clicking language. "You're holding civilians hostage. That's a mistake. You've seen what we can do to your ships. Now imagine what my soldiers will do to you. You have 60 seconds to release the civilians and surrender. If you refuse, we will come in and kill every single one of you. The civilians might get hurt in the crossfire, and that will be your fault, not ours. But either way, you all die. Choose." The channel was silent for a long moment. Then the commander responded, his voice shaking. "What are you?" "We're human," said simply, "and we're done being nice. 45 seconds." They surrendered. They released the civilians and laid down their weapons. Martinez's team secured them quickly, binding their limbs with restraints. The civilians were terrified, traumatized, but alive. Medical teams moved in, treating injuries, providing comfort. The entire operation took 3 hours from start to finish. When the Concordat fleet arrived 2 days later, they found the colony secure, the civilians safe, and the surviving forces in custody. They also found footage from the battle. The colony's security system had recorded everything: the human ship's aggressive attack, the Marines' rapid insertion, the brutal efficiency of the fighting, and most importantly, they'd recorded the final confrontation when a human commander had given trained warriors 60 seconds to surrender or die, and those warriors had chosen to surrender. The footage spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Every species in the Concordat watched it. Many watched it multiple times. They saw the humans fight with a ferocity and skill that seemed impossible. They saw tactics and strategies that their military academies had never even considered. They saw what a species could do when properly motivated. The reaction was mixed. Many species were grateful. 50,000 lives had been saved because humans were willing to fight, but many others were frightened. If humans could do this to what could they do to the Concordat itself? What had they invited into their peaceful society? Returned to Hub Station to find everything changed. Aliens no longer flinched away from her. Now they stared with a different kind of fear, mixed with respect and awe. The council called an emergency session, and every member attended. Ox stood at the central podium. His crystalline face reflected the chamber's lights in complex patterns. "Ambassador," he said formally, "your mission was successful beyond all expectations. 50,000 lives were saved. The collective has withdrawn from our borders. You have proven that humanity possesses military capabilities far beyond anything the Concordat has seen in." "We did what needed to be done," replied. "Yes," Ox agreed. "And that raises difficult questions. The Concordat was founded on principles of peace, consensus, and careful deliberation. We have maintained stability for thousands of years through these principles. But now we face threats that our methods cannot address. The attack proved that. Without human intervention, thousands would have died while we debated the proper response." He paused, looking around the chamber. "Therefore, the Council has a proposal. We wish to offer humanity a permanent seat on the Security Council. We wish to create a new Concordat defense initiative, with human advisors training our peacekeeping forces. We wish to learn from you, to understand how survivors think and fight. But we also wish to ensure that human power is channeled constructively, for the benefit of all species." Had expected this. Earth's government had prepared her for various scenarios, but actually hearing the offer was different. The Concordat was essentially asking humanity to become their military arm, their protectors, their warriors. It was an enormous responsibility and a massive opportunity. "I need to consult with Earth," she said. "This is a decision that affects my entire species." "Of course," Ox said. "Take the time you need, but know that the galaxy is watching. What happens next will shape the future of the Concordat for generations to come." That night stood in her quarters looking out at the stars. Had joined her, the moth-like scholar perching on a specially reinforced chair. "You're troubled," observed. "I'm thinking about responsibility," admitted. "Earth sent me here to make friends, to learn, to open doors for humanity. Instead, I've turned us into the Concordat's soldiers." "You saved 50,000 lives," pointed out. "You stopped an invasion. You showed the galaxy that peace doesn't mean weakness." "But at what cost?" asked. "The other species look at us differently now. They're afraid of us." "They were always afraid," said softly. "From the moment you arrived, they feared you, but now they also respect you. They also hope that you'll protect them. Is that really so terrible?" Thought about Earth, about humanity's long history of violence and conflict. They'd fought wars over resources, territory, ideology, religion. They'd nearly destroyed themselves multiple times, but they'd also built, created, and protected. They'd formed nations and alliances. They'd learned, slowly and painfully, how to work together. "Maybe we can do this," she said quietly. "Maybe we can be what they need without becoming what they fear." "That's the challenge, isn't it?" replied. "Being strong enough to protect but gentle enough to care. being warriors who serve rather than conquer. Smiled, you make it sound simple. It's not simple at all, said, but I believe you can do it. I've watched you. You lifted that beam to save maintenance workers. You walked into vacuum to seal a breach. You risked your life to save strangers. That's who you are. That's who humans are. You're dangerous, yes, but you're dangerous to the things that hurt others, not to the innocent. The message came from Earth 3 days later. The decision had been made. Humanity would accept the Concordat's offer, would become the first supreme commander of the Concordat Defense Initiative. Human advisors would be dispatched to train peacekeeping forces across the galaxy. Earth would open its military academies to alien students, sharing knowledge and tactics. But there were conditions. Human forces would operate under strict rules of engagement. They would defend but not conquer. They would train but not control. They would be partners in the Concordat, not masters over it. Earth had learned hard lessons about imperialism and dominance. They wouldn't repeat those mistakes among the stars. Accepted her new position with mixed feelings. She knew the path ahead would be difficult. There would be resistance from species who feared human power. There would be incidents and misunderstandings. There would be moments when the galaxy questioned whether they'd made the right choice. But she also knew it was necessary. The collective wasn't the only threat out there. The galaxy was vast, and the Concordat's peaceful nature made them vulnerable. Someone needed to stand between the innocent and the darkness. Someone needed to be willing to fight when fighting was the only option. Humans could do that. They'd been doing it for thousands of years on Earth. Now they'd do it among the stars. As settled into her new role, she thought about the title they'd given her, Supreme Commander. It sounded impressive, almost imperial, but she preferred to think of herself as something simpler. She was a protector, a guardian, a sheepdog watching over the flock. The galaxy had invited humanity to join them, not knowing what they were inviting in, but was determined to prove that survivors could be more than just warriors. They could be heroes. They could be the best of what intelligence and courage could achieve. The stars stretched endlessly before her. Somewhere out there, threats waited, but humanity was ready. They'd come from a world that tried to kill them every day and survived. They'd learned to thrive in hell itself. Whatever the galaxy threw at them, they would face it together. Human and alien, strong and weak, warrior and scholar. That was the promise of the Concordat. That was the future would fight to protect. And as she looked out at those endless stars, she smiled. This was just the beginning.